Hi, welcome to the very first installment of Soul Healing with the ETs. I'm Alex, and through my research, I've been able to identify 4 different groups of humans. Group number 1 think that this physical vessel of flesh and bones is all that we are. And we're born, and we're raised, and we go to school, and we work, and we retire, and we die, and that's it. The human body is done. There's no mention of an afterlife. And we just go through the motions, and that's where it all ends. Now, the second group of humans that I've been observing, they think that we are a human body with a soul inside of it. And we're born, and we're raised, and we go to school, and we work, and we retire, and then we die. But no mention is ever said, nothing is said about the soul that is in this human flesh and bones. Now, our third group of humans, of which I used to be, think that we are a vessel of flesh and bones, and that we have a soul, and the soul is our whispering in the background. It is our backseat driver. And we're born, and we're educated, and we work, and we retire, and we die. But during our life, we know that there is a soul. So we're a human vessel of flesh and bones with a soul inside of it. And the soul is directing us from the background and is saying, no, Alex, don't turn left. It's dangerous. Turn to the right. And saying, hey, you should go after that woman. She's really good energy. Don't buy this house. It's going to be full of problems. You should take this job. It's perfect for you. So we realize there's a soul that's there in the background. But then, who put the soul in the human body? God? Our Creator? Who put the soul in the body? So why does no one talk about that? Because my friends and I, we certainly don't talk about that. Like, that should be common knowledge all over the place. If there's a soul in the human body, and it's so important, we should be talking about that all the time. Interesting. Now, our fourth category of humans, of which I'm now part of, and it's a small group of society, but growing very rapidly, we know that we are souls with a human body attached to our soul. It's the other way round. So our soul, what is a soul, first of all? It is our true authentic self. It is the totality of who we are. It's a bundle of energy. It's life force energy. Our soul encompasses every single experience that we have ever lived. And our soul comes from what I like to call soul land. And where is soul land? It's everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere around us. Souls are all created by the Creator. You can call him God, but I don't think of God as being a man in the sky or in the clouds. I think of God as being source. And source is a consciousness, is the highest consciousness, is a frequency. And the frequency is everywhere. The consciousness is everywhere. Source has created souls by the gazillions. We are all souls. And souls live up in soul land in bliss and joy and love and gratitude. And they're on a much higher dimension than we are here as humans on Earth. And they live in fantastic scenery up there. They are always in joy. It's a perfect setting. They are eternal, or we are eternal, indestructible souls. Our soul never dies. Souls never die. But they're up there and they want to learn more. They want to grow and evolve. So to grow and evolve, souls want to do everything. They want to experience every single thing possible that there is to experience. And part of that experience is to come down to a physical planet like Earth, which is composed of matter or physical substance, and to interact with the physical substance. So the soul incarnates into a physical flesh and bone body to be able to interact with the physicality here on Earth. So if we look at it from this perspective, we are all souls. We were all created by Source. Source is in every single one of us, is every single cell in our body. So thus, we are made of Source. We are Source. We all have the same Creator, Source. Every single human on Earth, every animal, every bird, every fish, every tree, every plant, everything has a soul. And we were all created by Source, and we all come here to interact with the physicality on planet Earth. So this physical vessel here is attached to our soul through what is called a silver thread, which is basically somewhere around the belly button. We have an energetic thread that is attached between the soul and the human body. So view the soul and human body as being an iceberg. And 10% of the iceberg is above water, 90% is below water. Well, the human body would be the 10%, the 90% is the soul. Well, the soul is the 100%, but the 90% is not distinguishable at this dimension. So we are souls with a physical body attached to it. Our physical body has a lifespan, but me personally, I want to be as healthy as possible because I want my body to live as long as possible. And that's one of the things that we'll be covering on this channel. How to extend our shelf life. The worst thing to do, I would say, is to listen to these yahoos who go around saying, the average male lives to be 76 years old and the average female lives to be 80 years old. What a bunch of nonsense. Where do they get those statistics from? It's blabber, blubber, blabber, whatever you call it. Yes, yeah. Our mind is a fertile soil. If we plant the proper seeds in our mind, we can alter our body to make it realize that we want it to live for a very long time. Our mind is extremely powerful, and that's something that we'll be jumping into on this channel as well. So we want to tell our mind, hey, I want to be around for a very long time, and just disregard numbers that are just made up by some fictitious corporation. So, viewing ourselves as souls, this is a physical body, so that we can call this body a flesh suit. We can call it a meat suit. This is our meat suit. We want to take good care of our meat suit to live here on Earth in a long time. Now, when the soul comes to Earth, it has a specific objective. The soul lives thousands of lives. All our souls, we have all lived thousands, but it's not thousands. What if I told you it was hundreds of thousands? What if I told you we live millions of lives? We never die. The only thing that dies is the flesh suit, the meat suit. Our soul never dies. It's the complete opposite of what we've been taught. Our soul lives forever. Every time our soul, or let's say our physical vessel dies, the soul goes back up to soul land. Remember, soul land being all-encompassing, being everywhere around us, and meets with other souls in the soul family, meets with guardian angels. Yes, we all have guardian angels, or spirit guides, soul guides. It meets with the teachers of light, and then it plans its next incarnation. Now, there are many places in the universe, in the galaxies, for souls to go and incarnate in different types of environments, because the souls live forever. They want to experiment different things. So here on Earth, souls come down to live in a three-dimensional reality. We are a spiritual being with a physical body in a physical environment. So when we come here to Earth, we are going to start on a small scale. So my first incarnation here on Earth was as a protozoan. It was as a one-cell organism, and what a life that was. Wow, that was exciting. Okay, it wasn't that exciting, but for the soul, it was an experience. And every experience the soul goes through adds a few drops of light to its consciousness. Our soul, when it comes here to Earth, has its memory wiped out. Now, people ask me, well, Alex, why is the memory wiped out? Well, imagine you've lived a gazillion lives. You've experimented all sorts of things, but this time round, you wanted to experiment being a protozoan. If you could remember everything that happened in all your previous lives, well, it wouldn't be very much of an experience now, would it? No. So your memory is wiped out. However, in our cells, as in our body, we have trillions of cells, and each cell has cellular memory that remembers our past lives. And that's why, when a baby is born and then it becomes a child, let's say your child is an extremely gifted pianist, and you're there, but why is he an extremely gifted pianist when he's barely learnt anything? Like, when we come out of our mother, we basically don't have any learnings in us. So how can you be a gifted pianist when you're, let's say, 3 or 4, when you didn't learn it yet? Well, that's accessing your cellular memory, which you do on a higher consciousness level. Okay. So we'll be getting into more of this as we go along during the weeks. Our soul comes here and wants to build. Basically, you build in how would we say, in intensity. So let's say you wanted to be in one incarnation, you're protozoan. Then you go back up and you talk with your spirit guides and your soul family, and you figure out, okay, well, this time I want to come back to Earth and I want to be an ant. And you're an ant in a backyard of a home with a family, and they're having a picnic, and you find the most juicy piece of corn, and you take it back to the anthill, and then the little girl, she steps on top of you and crushes all your ant dreams. Well, then you go back up to Soul Land, and you say, well, that was really interesting. I wish I could have taken the piece of corn to share with my ant friends, but now I want to become a mosquito, and I want to bite as many humans as possible. So you come back down to Earth and you become incarnated as a mosquito. Remember, the mosquito is attached through the silver thread into the soul. And then you bite a few humans and one of them smacks you. And then you go back up. And then you say, hey, I want to do a more complicated life this time. So why don't I come down and become a plant? And me, Alex, I was a plant in Australia by the ocean, and I had very long tentacles. Well, I still do today. And I got splattered by Australian salt air coming off the ocean, and which is filled full of minerals. And I lived for many lives there. And young boys would pee on me when they were at the beach with their family. And then at some point I died and I went back up. And then came back down, and I want to incarnate as a bush in the Canadian tundra and see what it's like to be burst out in the spring and then die in the freezing cold as winter sets in. And then in another incarnation, you could want to experience being a plant in the Mauritanian desert and see what that's like to live in intense heat. You know, hey, Mauritania's in Africa. So our soul wants to experiment everything there is to experiment. Why? Because our soul is indestructible. It's eternal. It doesn't die. We are all from the same Creator. We're all here to experiment physicality on earth, and we want to experiment different things to get different experiences, as every incarnation adds a few drops of light to our consciousness. I know I'm repeating some things, but it'll sink in more easily by doing that. You know, our soul wants to incarnate as, let's see, I was maybe a soul wants to be a bird in a gum tree in Mexico and have 20 babies in their shells. And the mother is sitting on top. Look at me, I have a big family coming, 20 babies. And then a possum races up the tree and eats all her eggs. And then she flies away distraught and hits a truck, boom, and her life is over. And then she goes back up to Soul Land and she starts planning her next incarnation. Maybe she wants to become a peregrine falcon and dive off a cliff in Tajikistan, and then dive on some poor, it's unsuspecting pigeon down below and attack it. You know, our soul wants to experience so many things because it never dies. So our soul wants to become a fish and be in the Pacific Ocean. I was a flatfish in the Pacific Ocean, and just as you go to eat your perfect prey, a shark comes and eats both of you at the same time. The soul wants to experiment being eaten, and the soul wants to experiment having a small prey that it finds delicious. It all gives different experiences. A soul wants to be a Pacific salmon in Alaska, climbing the salmon runs, and then dodging around a grizzly bear and saying, ha, I got around you, and then going to spawn. Our soul wants to incarnate as a grizzly bear and then pounce on the salmon that's trying to get around him to go spawn. Our soul wants to experiment everything. Whether you be a cougar in the top of a tree, or a jaguar, or a cheetah running in the Cheetah Olympics, the soul wants to experiment it all. Wants to experiment being a rock, a tree, a flower, a bush. Now, when we get to humans, things get a lot more interesting because a whole bunch more doors open because we are a little bit more evolved as humans. So when the soul comes to a human, it's like, well, how would you want to start? You could start off as a fetus in your mother and last 2 months, and then your mother miscarries you. And you see what that feels like. And then report back to your soulmates in Soul Land. Maybe you decide, hey, I want to see what it's like to live 5 months in the fetus and then get aborted. Yeah. I want to see what it's like living 8 months and then get aborted. Our soul wants to experiment and all. Maybe you say, hey, I want to be born and then have a debilitating child disease, and I won't live very long in my very young childhood. And that gives a whole bunch of experience to the soul as the child, but it also gives a different experience to the mother. And we'll be getting into the interactions of different souls, how they interact together. We'll be getting into that in future episodes. So then maybe you want to experiment being the youngest sister in a family of 10 in India. Maybe you want to experiment being the oldest son in a family of 5 in Brazil. Maybe you want to be the oldest. One of my incarnations is I was the oldest brother of 5, and in the USA, in the Midwest, in the 19th century. And we were a very poor family, and I wanted to bring some money to the family. I went to cut giant trees down on the west coast of the USA, and a tree crushed me and killed me. So it was, what experience does that bring to the soul? What does it do to the rest of the family? Because they are all souls as well. Our soul lives forever. We don't need to worry about dying. We have all died millions and millions of times. We will be talking more and more about this. So our souls is not here from earth. Our soul is from elsewhere. Everyone's soul is from elsewhere. Thus, we are all extraterrestrials. Thus, the name of this podcast is Soul Healing with the ETs. Our soul has been traumatized by every incarnation basically brings trauma, because we're coming right back down to a very low level of consciousness for our soul. And our soul goes through trauma. So part of this channel is about healing the soul. Now, how do we heal the soul? Well, 2 ways that jump right out very quickly is when we come here to Earth, to experience Earth, we have a specific objective. So our objective, you could call our soul purpose. We all have a purpose in every incarnation. So it's to find your purpose. So that's not easy to do. What was my purpose? In this incarnation, in this flesh shoot, my purpose was to create self-worth. I was not confident as a kid. So create self-worth, and then over the years, build up a baggage of knowledge and experiences, and then corral that together, and then lead, act as a guide to help others awaken and evolve. We are all here, all souls on earth and everywhere else are here to help each other grow and evolve. That is our part of our underlying fundamental soul contract. We'll get into soul contracts in the next episode, but it's to help each other out. We all have very specific objectives in this lifetime, in this bodysuit that we are in right now. And speaking for myself, I want my bodysuit to live a very long time. I know I'm going to live way over 100 years, but the human body should live even more than that. But we'll cover that in future episodes. So we're here to learn with other souls, and we're here to heal the soul. So finding our purpose. Now, how do we find our purpose? Look back as to when you were a kid. What were things that you really enjoyed doing? Did you like gardening with your dad? Did you like playing baseball with your brothers and sisters? Did you like to cook with your mom? Did you like to go swimming? You know, but look at where you are today. If we didn't have to earn money to pay for all these things, what would you do naturally? What would draw you towards it? You know, that's part of your purpose, right? To think of the things that you would enjoy doing if money was not a factor. And don't tell me watching television. Okay? Television, you know what television means, right? It's 3 words. Tell-a-vision. Yeah, it's mind programming. The smartest thing I ever did was completely cut down on television. I still watch sports a little bit, but everything's so much clearer when you're not. That's your choice. But another way to find that's finding our purpose. So start looking into that. It's not a race to find your purpose, like boom, right away in 2 minutes. No, just think it over. Just gradually contemplate. Now, our soul likes to be talked to. I only realized this a short time ago, and that's what we do when we meditate. We're contemplating, we're reflecting, we're talking with our soul, with our spirit guides, with highest consciousness, with our Creator. We'll cover all these things. But you can talk to your soul. So number one, we want to find our purpose. Number two is to connect. And by connecting, I mean spiritually to our Creator. I only connected 4 years ago, not even 4 years ago. And I can tell you that now I'm alone, but I'm never lonely. Whereas before, I was alone and I was lonely. But now I just feel Source all over me. Source is always within me, in every single cell. Source is us. We are Source. Source is every single cell in our body. And you connect spiritually. We'll be jumping into this. It's a personal connection that you make with the Creator. So that's a good first episode of Soul Healing with the ETs. If you have any comments, perhaps we can start a forum and you can start putting questions or comments in there and we can build on this. I don't know how this podcast is going to go exactly. This is the first episode, but I do know I'm supposed to do this. It is part of my purpose here on earth. And I always knew there was something I was achieving, leading up to, and this is it. So I hope you like this first segment, and hopefully very shortly, in a week or two, we'll have a second segment, and we'll talk about the soul contract, because that's very important. And in closing, I would like to dedicate this podcast and every future podcast to a very good friend of mine, a friend that I strayed away from when I was a kid, and who came back into my life in the winter of 2022. And that is Jesus. To Jesus. See you next time.